CMS content projects often change multiple pages, media items, menus, and sitemaps. To support this workflow, the revision system in jsHarmony lets users group those changes together so that they can be reviewed and published in one batch. There are 5 steps to the jsHarmony CMS revision process. First, an author will clone a release to create a local revision under their account. Then they'll make changes in that local revision to the pages, media items, menus, and sitemaps as necessary. After they're done with their changes, they'll submit those changes for publish review. And in step 4, a publisher will then review and, if they're happy with the changes, approve them to merge those changes into a release. Finally, when ready, the publisher will publish the release to one of the site's deployment targets. So we'll walk you through that process. In the previous tutorial, we went over creating a new site and installing a template. Now we're going to use that site to go through the revision process. First thing we'll need to do is check out the site. You can do that by either clicking the Checkout button on the Sites tab or by selecting the site from the dropdown. After we check out the site, we're on the Revisions tab. And here, if you ever get lost and forget that revision process, you can click this link here, Learn About the Revision Process, to show you all the steps. The first step, we'll need to clone a release to create our local revision. The releases are all listed on the bottom here in this grid. Usually you'll just have one release called the master release. There's some situations where you'd have multiple releases, like if you have multiple languages you're supporting or multiple geographic areas. For the most part, you'll just have this one master release, so we'll go ahead and clone that. We need to give our revision a name. We'll call it initial setup. And now we're redirected to the sitemap view. Now we'll make a couple changes to the revision just so there's something here. I'm going to click Add Homepage, title. We'll use the one column full width template. Then we'll edit the content and say welcome to the jsHarmony CMS. If you ever want to look at the revision history for a page or a media item or a menu, you can click the View Revisions button under that item, and it'll show you the full revision history across all revisions. And so here we have our initial version, which you can click the Browse button to preview. It says Page Content, and you can also click the Browse button on our new revision, and here it says Welcome to the jsHarmony CMS. Now that we made our changes, let's say we have all our changes complete and we're ready to submit this for publish review. If you want to see what changes were made in that revision, you can click on the revision under the Currently Editing box on top, and it'll show you all the changes. You can also perform some more advanced actions here, like delete, rename. When you're ready to submit for review, you can either click the Submit for Publish Review button, or back on the Revisions tab, you can click Submit for Publish Review here. You'll notice that since this revision is checked out, it's also highlighted in green in the listing. After submitting this revision for Publish Review, if you're an author, the revision is going to be no longer editable. So when you hit yes, it's going to be removed from your revisions in progress listing. And if you're an author, that's about as far as you're going to get. You won't see this revision submitted for publish review on top. But if you're a publisher, since it's your job to review and approve revisions, you do see it in this grid here. So any revision that's submitted from any user is going to be listed in this grid for publishers. You can click the Review tab to review the changes and decide to either approve or reject them. If we approve, we'll need to merge it into a release branch. So we'll select the release we want to merge it into and decide whether we want to just merge the changes listed here in the listing or if we want to overwrite the entire target branch. The second option of overwriting the entire branch you'd use only rarely in some very specific situations. Like for instance, if you're restoring a backup and you want to overwrite everything in the release branch with what was restored from the backup. For here, we'll use the only merge changes listed here option. It's checking for conflicts. Didn't find any conflicts, so the merge process completed successfully. And the final step, number 5, if you're a publisher, you can now publish that release by going to the Publish tab and adding a deployment. So a quick recap of that revision process. Step 1 is to clone a release to create your local revision under your user account. Step 2 is to make changes in that local revision, so change any pages, media items, menus as necessary. Then step 3, once all the changes are complete, is to submit for publish review. And step 4, a publisher will then go through, look at the changes, review, and decide whether to approve or reject them. If the publisher approves, they're going to merge those changes into a release. And then finally, step 5, the publisher will go to the Publish tab to publish the release to a deployment target. It is possible to bypass the revision and version control process. This isn't recommended unless you have a very simple setup. You don't have multiple users, you don't need to group changes, so you just have a single user system and you're editing a very simple site. What you can do is under releases, you can check out one of the releases directly. You'll need to click yes on the confirmation prompt and then check out. And at this point, you have your release checked out. You can make changes to the release and then you can publish. In order to do this, your user will need to be a publisher. And again, it's not recommended, but it is a way to quickly make some spot changes on the site.